But here's the biggest issue, is that we spend so much of our money that we never have enough left over at the end of the month for saving it. Our problem is that we run out of money at the end of the month. We never have enough. This is what happens when 70% of us are living paycheck to paycheck.
I was 23, 24 years old. My wife and I have been married a couple years, and we kind of had an idea every year where we would review our finances, and it just was like, we're $90,000 in debt. Like, our debt load keeps growing, and we're like, how is this happening when we're both working, we're young couples, and we're not getting any further ahead? And so we made a decision to make a change. But before I dive into what we did and why we did it, let me back up and talk a little bit more about how we got there. So I think our story isn't unlike most people's story. So growing up, I grew up in a kind of a poor family. My dad was a pastor. My mom often was the church secretary. I knew I was gonna go to college. I knew I was gonna get a degree. I was actually one of the only ones in my family that ended up graduating with a 4-year degree. So that was super important to me, but it meant that there were some costs that laid into that. So a big portion of our $90,000 of debt was student loan debt. Scholarships were just not something that I was able to obtain enough of. I had a couple of small ones, nothing that was going to substantially impact things for me. So while I was in college, I was in a major car wreck and totaled out the car. So I needed to replace that vehicle. And so again, emotional decision, I need to buy something safe because I just got out of this major car wreck. So $20-some thousand later, I've got a brand new Honda Accord, one of the safest vehicles at that time. It was a 2005, and went into debt for that. So now I've got student loan debt. Now I've got a car, that I'm in debt to. And then, as Gretchen and I were married, my wife is from Kansas. And so a lot of her friends started getting married. We found ourselves flying back and forth to weddings. And before we knew it, we racked up over $10,000 in credit card bills just on plane tickets back and forth from Kansas and that. And so all that accumulated to this $90,000 in debt. And on top of that, we decided to purchase our first home right away when we got married. It really wasn't the smart thing to do financially with all the debt that we had. If I could tell myself, speak to myself back then, I'd say wait. But even though I had somebody telling me to wait, we chose not to listen. So we knew a change needed to happen. You can't get $90,000 in debt, continue to go down those roads. We knew we had to start making some better, wiser decisions. And we had already ignored some of the wise advice that was given to us. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, we got something as a wedding gift. Now this is gonna date me a little bit, but as a wedding gift, we got a Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover book and his cassette tapes. And so I had to dust off the cassette player, but we ended up starting to listen to that. I had already been very familiar with him through the radio station, and so I listened to his show all the time.
Gabe starts off this hour in Minneapolis. Hi, Gabe. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
I loved his Debt-Free Fridays, where they did a big debt-free screen when people were debt-free.
We're debt-free!
It was just I always just felt myself going that's gonna be me someday. Well, it just so happened that at our church at that time, another gal, Shannon Pierce, decided to launch a Financial Peace University class. It was a 13-week class at that time. And she knew that I'd been listening to him and I'd been reading his book and was super big Dave fan, and asked if I wanted to co-lead with her. I thought, man, I don't feel equipped to co-lead, but I'll do it. So I did.
You'll see in the bulletins, we've got a flyer for Financial Peace University and a flyer for the Legacy Journey.
And man, helping her lead that first class just springboarded our journey. So for us, I think it was simple. He gives a super simple process. It's 7 baby steps. Step 1 is just save $1,000. We were able to do that just like that. We were all right, we got 1 out of the 7 done. And then baby step 2, list your debts biggest to smallest, and start paying them off. Pay the smallest ones off first and then work towards the bigger ones. And I just remember as we worked through each debt and started paying stuff off and getting traction, it was like super empowering. Like I really felt like how that behavioral change was there. And how we were able to do that then was like we said no to almost every extra thing you can think of. And we knew that was short-term decisions for long-term gain. Because the idea that Dave talks about is live like no one else now so that later you can live and give like no one else.
Personal finance is about 80% behavior. It's only about 20% head knowledge. That's why God chooses to work through money to change and transform us. For some of you, He's going to use this issue of money to heal your marriage. For some of you, He's going to use this issue of money to put discipline in your life in a place and in a way that you never dreamed you would see it. You're going to make different choices after having gone through this. It absolutely works.
In 18 months, we were able to be debt-free, pay $90,000 off, and start doing it the right way, which is really God's way. I know a lot of people watching this are going to be in a different spot financially, but for those that feel hopeless, there's a way to get out from under this. But it does take intentional steps forward to do so. For me personally, like I would push everybody towards Financial Peace University. The difference with Dave teaches against a lot of the other people who teach this stuff is that he really understands the behavioral aspect of it. And I think that that is a very key part to like actually winning at this. Don't be hopeless. Just know you need, just like you do, sometimes you need a fitness coach, you need a financial coach. Dave Ramsey is that. They've got a perfect plan. It works for everybody 100% of the time because he teaches you how to spend less than you're taking in. And if you're spending less than you take in, guess what? Over time, you will be debt-free. And so for us, it's just been a story of like God's blessing after God's blessing after God's blessing, but it was there because we obeyed what He had asked us to do. We responded to what He asked us to do. We knew that like living in debt was not His design for us. So that was our story. That allowed us to be in a better spot financially by the time we decided to have kids. And as a result, here I am as a father of 3 kids, and financially, like we just don't have the stresses in life like some families may incur, and I owe it all to finding Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University and going through that process to be able to be where I'm at today, debt-free, and now being able to let my story hopefully impact and empower others.